Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. We're joined by media consultant Liz Hayford-Assari. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning.
I see you there. I see you. Hope you're well.
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm well. I'm in there. Anyway, before we get into the papers, a few thoughts I'd like to run by you. I'm sure you've heard about the Akachi incident where some youth were gunned down, two of them in some sort of altercation with the police. Okay, so it has to do with allegations of police brutality, and this apparently is the third such instance within a period of 6 months. Now, to cut a long story short, there had been some snatching of someone's bag by some people on a motorbike some days before. Now, the police spots 3 people on a motorbike, and the assumption is that these could be the people. But these are just youth. In fact, they were saying that there was a guy on a motorbike. He was going home, met 2 of his friends, and said, "Hey, join me." Now, the police van allegedly, rams them against the barricades on the street, and then, some altercations continue. And in fact, we have 2 people who have now lost their lives. And Akachi has been in a state of uproar. Of course, the people can't trust the police there to, investigate themselves. So people have been speaking about they're having to petition the IGP and for the RegSec to step in and all of that. But your quick take on some of these, actions. The police is clothed with the force of the state, but sometimes they get it wrong. And I'm not saying in this instance because there's no evidence yet, but 2 youth have died. Quick reaction?
The police are law enforcers. They're to make sure that there's law and order wherever they are or wherever they've been sent to police. And I think that they should be friends of citizens and not foes. I mean, they're not there to fight the community. In your narration, I didn't hear you talk about the police trying to stop those on the motorbike and they probably did not stop. Or I didn't hear you talk about them trying to question the young men and they did not give them any response. So just outright shooting on suspicion, I think it's not the way to go. I think that the IGP should act quickly towards this.
So Liz, just to clarify, I believe from what we've heard, the police says, they tried to alert them, but per the reports we get, the youth weren't even aware the police was trying to signal them in any way. So different accounts being brought in. The question is, you don't know whom to believe, but those from the youth front who later, and on a sad note, later some of the youth attacked the Akachi police station, as a sort of reprisal because they felt this was going on. It was one time too many, but that is the kind of story. It's a bit patchy and you don't know who exactly is telling 100% of the truth or even some percentage of the truth.
Yes, but again, the police should be professional. I mean, if you try to stop them and they do not stop, it's shooting them the other resort. Isn't there another way by which you can apprehend them without having to kill anybody? I believe that the police are professional. If they want to apprehend you, if they want to arrest you, they know how they can go about it. They probably might not get you there and then, but they know that they can apprehend you, and they can apprehend you without killing you, without shooting at you.
Well, very, very valid point indeed. Very valid point. And it's sad that in all of these instances, people keep losing their lives. But another quick one right before we get into the Daily Graphic. I don't know whether you monitored the news right before we came on. So National Security Minister Albert Kandapa has been saying that when it comes to the justicial system, judges shouldn't toe a certain line all the time, because if rulings always, my apologies, if rulings always are slanted, so to speak, for lack of a better word, toward his party, the NPP, then people will lack confidence in the judiciary because they will think it's a bit of a, and these are my words, a rubber stamp. Now, people have taken him on saying, hey, but if the cases lean in a certain direction, and if basically others don't have a case, you would want the judges to rule in the right manner. It is the law that must be followed. There are others who have also come in, like Professor Kwesi Enning, who have said that no, there is actually a lot of reason in what the National Security Minister is saying. From where you sit, looking at the balance of power between the three organs of government, what it should be, and looking at our own political dynamics, what is your thinking on this?
I think that, like I have always said, we should have three independent arms of government. We should have the executive, we should have the judiciary, and we should have the legislature. And they should not be beholden to each other. I mean, they should be independent. And I know the judiciary over the years have tried to rule without fear or favor. But in coming years or in past years, we have seen that they tend to pay homage, if I should say so, to those who have put them in the position that they are in. And like the National Security Coordinator is saying, if they seem to be leaning towards one direction all the time, people are bound to read into whatever judgments are being given, especially when we realize that with the rulings, there's no dissent. Everybody seems to agree and go one way. And then you question, isn't there a devil's advocate in there somewhere who sees differently? Do they all see the same way? I believe that the judiciary that we have today is what we have made it. We have tried to couch the judiciary in a way that seems right to us as a government, as a people. And therefore, we're getting back what we have put into it. Everybody seems to want to color one person or another. If you do not speak in favor of somebody, if you say something against somebody, if you criticize somebody constructively, you're given a color. And that is not the way we should go. I believe that the judiciary should be able to stand up and clear its image, give the people an image that they want to see of a judiciary that is fair, that is free, that is working without favoring anybody, that is firm. That is what we want to see, and I think that is what the judiciary should make of itself. We need a judiciary that is strong, that can really uphold justice, and it behoves on them to be truthful and honest. If they're truthful and honest and loyal to citizens, nobody will want to paint them.
Do you feel we have that sort of judiciary now? That which you describe as being all of those, nice things, honest and, playing above the board?
I won't put my neck out and say that we have that now. But I know that there are some independent judges in the judiciary, in the Superior Court of Judicature, that I will stand up for, because they would stand up for what is true and what is honest and what is just.
Right.
But as a whole, I won't put my neck on the line for that.
Right. Liz, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's get into the papers now, starting with the Daily Graphic. 100,000 youth targeted over 5 years. What's that about? Let's give you the details. And the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, yesterday launched the National Youth Volunteers Program, NYVP, in Kumasi with a call on Ghanaian youth to, quote, chart a new course of action for our country and various communities. Now, he said the program provided all Ghanaians with the opportunity to contribute their quota irrespective of their educational level, political affiliation, and ethnicity to the development of the country. The program, which will have 13 different modules, is expected to engage 100,000 youth over the next 5 years. Now, the NYVP is an initiative of the National Youth Authority under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. And Dr. Bawumia explained that the objective of the program was to establish a vibrant culture of volunteerism as a means of rekindling the flames of patriotism, propriety, discipline, and civic responsibility within the youth by providing a coordinated framework for streamlining volunteerism activities. You can get more details from the Daily Graphic newspaper, from the headlines, and of course, all the way to page 3. Liz, to be honest with you, my bit is, when I hear of these, they are so good, but at the same time, I think about continuity, I think about sustainability, and I think about the fact that we have programs, projects. So this is slightly different in terms of volunteering and all of that. It's expected to engage over 100,000 youth over the next 5 years. But sometimes I ask myself, so how about the programs from the past? How could we have fed this into maybe a NAPCO idea? How could we have fed this into other youth endeavors? Do you get it? We're always, it appears, trying to start something new when there are old things we've not even got right. My thinking. What's yours?
I agree with you. And I think that volunteerism in Ghana has been dead for quite some time now. And so I'd like to see the details of what he means when he talks about the youth volunteering. What are they volunteering? What they have studied? Are we looking at the unemployed? If you're looking at the unemployed, then they are looking to earning a living for themselves. I don't think that they're looking to volunteering. We still have the Red Cross around. We still have the guides. We still have the scouts. And in our youthful days, it was an honor and a pleasure for us to belong to these societies and to go out and do things for free. But today, the youth of today don't know how to volunteer. Get stuck in traffic or have a problem with your car and get some people to push you and let your car start. They want you to give them something for that. So exactly what are we looking at? And if you're talking about the youth, 100,000, if you're looking at unemployment, isn't that a drop in the ocean? What are the numbers when it comes to unemployment? And then how do you get the 100,000 youth that you're targeting? And over 5 years, are you targeting 100,000 a year, or you're targeting 100,000 over 5 years? If it's 100,000 over 5 years, isn't it woefully inadequate? What would the others be doing?
So very valid point you make there. And of course, volunteerism in your day is definitely not what it is now. I mean, some youth will tell you bluntly that owing to the political debacles we have had time and again, they don't want to sacrifice anything. That is why I feel patriotism has had such a hard dent, because people feel the goods have not been delivered. In the Nkrumah era, where you had people literally benefiting from free food in school, free education. Some of them went to Russia, to Germany, and other places in the East. That was when Nkrumah showed some signs of leaning, though he said he was part of the non-aligned movement. But there were these benefits, and you would see that people would come back and be willing to serve. Nowadays, you look at the scholarship schemes that we have, for example, and even those who merit them. I mean, it is very blunt. People will tell you, you can score a 4.0. If you are not connected in certain ways, you will not arrive at this point. You will do this. So people feel, why should I sacrifice? But on the other hand, I feel it's not a lost cause. Mother Ghana remains ours, and we cannot give up on her because she has not given up on us. So we must continue, like at least the target is the youth, the young ones. Hopefully we can have a change in mindset, a paradigm shift to sort of reorient people and foster that love again for our country so we can give off our best. There's two brothers.
That will happen if, like you're talking about scholarships, you don't see those who are privileged children getting the scholarship as against those who have merited it by hard work. And we have a lot of needy and brainy children who I sit back and wonder, why don't they get scholarships? Why don't they apply for scholarships? They'll tell you, madam, if you don't know somebody, nobody will mind you. Your letter will just go and lie there, like you said. And if we don't change that, then you definitely won't get the youth to volunteer anything, because they think that it is against them. Those whose children are privileged are the ones who are getting all the benefits, and they who are down there are being asked to volunteer. So we need to work at it.
Let's do a few more stories. 2 brothers, 1 other drowned in abandoned pit. This is a sad one, Liz. It's on page 16. And 3 boys aged between 7 and 9 have drowned in a pit at Tuba in the South municipality in the Greater Accra region. They are Isaac Among, 8, and siblings Elisha Kakra, Edunoa, 9, and Samuel Teria Ejamens are 6. The children had left home to play around Mountain View at Tuba last Saturday morning and decided to wash down in a pit created by rainwater from a ridge. The topsoil at the area had been removed as a result of illegal sand and gravel winning activities. Unknown to the children, a mudslide had created the pit, making the base muddy, a development which made it difficult for them to swim out of the stagnant water in the pit. It beats me. It beats me that the sort of avoidable deaths we have in this country, from the most basic illnesses to very preventable incidents. Yesterday we were talking about hanging homes on the Weja-Kaswa stretch and how it's awaiting disaster. Last week I saw in the papers a lot of areas where the same bit about illegal, at least that one was galamsey, so mining activity, had created a lot of these pits in different communities, spanning different regions, Eastern region, Ashanti region, and others, and people could easily lose their lives. You could fall into a pit. Here we are, similar situation, but this is on the back of, let me just get, illegal sand and gravel winning activities. When you hear of these, I mean, 3 young people, their lives snuffed out. What's your take?
I cringe. I cringe because I have always been advocating for our children to go out and play, get a little sunshine. We keep them indoors all the time, behind maybe computers, behind tablets, and that kind of thing. They don't have the kind of youthful experiences we had running around. But again, we the adults have also created dangerous spots because we have been disobedient, because we have done all kinds of illegal things. Where they were playing, is it somewhere where sun is supposed to be wind? I mean, you begin to ask questions, and then it's terrifying because 8 and 9-year-olds...
And Liz, honestly, if it is, I mean, there should be barricades or something to prevent people, especially children, from having access to such places.
That's what I was coming to, because 8 and 9-year-olds would go anywhere if they are not stopped. So I was going to ask the same questions. Were there any barricades to stop the children from running into a sand-winning environment? Is it close to their house? Were they far from home? Again, I keep saying that until the child is old enough to be responsible, to be out on their own, there should be some elderly person who should keep an eye on these children. These children just go running anywhere and everywhere. And if we as parents and if we as community elders do not open our eyes and keep our eyes on them, we would always end up with such disasters. We have moved away from living as communities to living as individual households. Is that what we want? Does it augur well for the way we were brought up? I mean, if I should step out, and when I was young, if I should step out and misbehave, if my parents got to know, I'll be beaten. But whoever saw me misbehaving would have beaten me already. You know, so you make sure that you behave yourself. Is that what we are teaching our children today? No, our children are just growing up wild, just doing any kind of thing, have no supervision. And for me, it is scary, and it hurts. It hurts when you hear that a child, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, has died an unnecessary death. So sad, and but that is where we find ourselves now. Media must promote peace. That is Afil Moni saying so. And on the back page, WaterAid launches project to sustain wash facilities. Let's quickly get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I'll get back to the Daily Graphic on one thing I have spotted. But the Ghanaian Times, Water for All agenda, government invests over $740 million in 8 water supply projects. Now, here's the bit. We've been told time and again by the Ghana Water Company Limited that if we don't get our act right, the turbulence levels of our water bodies and all of that, we may import water, maybe not immediately, but sometime
in the future. That has been re-echoed by the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources as well. Let's quickly get into that story. And the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Ms. Cecilia Abnadapa, has said government has so far invested more than $740 million in 8 water supply projects, which were at various stages of progression. These projects, she said, were the Yendi, Tamale, Bolgatanga, Damongo, Wenchi, Sunyane, Keta, and Sekandi Takrade water supply projects. She provided the update on the number of projects currently ongoing in the country when she took her turn at the weekly Meets the Press series in Accra yesterday. Similarly, she said the loan agreement citing some of these projects had been signed with value for money audits completed. But among other things, she's been talking about where we find ourselves when it comes to water. And you would notice that even in some very urban parts of our country, water supply is erratic. You get water once or twice a week. It happens to me, so I know it. What has been your experience, and where do you think we're going when it comes to water? I recall, just before you come in, Liz, I recall she said recently that some of the sachet water we sell is not exactly the best, the most wholesome, and that our tap water is properly treated. But if we're inching towards a place where even the tap water will not flow, it could be something very tricky. Over to you, Liz.
Water. The projects that are being implemented, I would say that I give it a thumbs up. It is good that we have water projects, and we have water supply for everybody. We must have good drinking water. But then again, when you go back and you look back, we don't harvest rainwater anymore. The rainwater that we get is scanty as compared to the past, and it's due to deforestation and the fact that we have done away with a lot of our vegetation. So the trees that are supposed to help us with the cover and to have us get enough rainfall from all the sciences that say that the water evaporates and then it condenses and it comes down. We don't have that anymore. We have kind of like cleared everywhere where there was greenery to build houses, to do all kinds of things. And therefore, I can say that in Accra, we suffer scarcity because what amount of water are we getting? If you look at the catchment areas, what have happened to the catchment areas? The catchment areas don't have the trees, don't have that shade that will keep the water anymore. Everywhere seems to be drying up. We seem to be, the desert seems to be coming down faster than we expect. And if we do not work towards greening our environment, it would even be worse for us in the coming years when we talk about water. And then again, you can talk about water pollution from all the galamseys and all the mining activities that have polluted our water. So again, we have a lot of work to do with regards to water. We need to be able to store our water. I remember when I was in Tamale and in Volga, we didn't have water problems because there was the Tono Dam and there was the Via Dam, and those, even though they were used mainly for irrigation, people still could get some of that water. And if we do not go back to doing things like that, then we are going to face hardships when it comes to water. And water is life, so we need to protect our lives. So we need to make sure that there's water all the time.
Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper for some other stories. And multi-stakeholders approach needed to deal with NCDs. That's according to some panelists. When you look at page 3, 2 jailed 65 years for robbery. Calm restored to Akachi after police youth clashes. It has to do with that story list that I was talking about earlier. But over in Nigeria, more turbulence. Gunmen attack kills 50 in Nigeria's Plateau state, and China-Africa dialogue spurring shared development. And sometimes you look at these stories, and one of the things, if you followed the international monetary scene, one of the things that will come to mind is the debt trap diplomacy. But of course, that's a lot of fuzz because some say it doesn't even exist. But as Africans, I don't feel we've done the best with the resources we have to have got ourselves out of, some of what we were mired in, economically speaking, even pre-independence or in the independence period. Let's take a look as well at the Daily Guide newspaper. Ghana Post boosts fleet. Opuni earned more than 25,000 Ghana cedis monthly. All set for Jomoro MP's trial. That's on page 3. And we're for death penalty abolishment. That's according to the Ghana Armed Forces. Story on page 6. Let me just get some clarity on that. And the Ghana Armed Forces has officially opposed the death penalty in all circumstances, declaring its support to any move to abolish capital punishment in the country. I want to believe it's Amnesty International, together with a whole lot of others who have been speaking about, not opting for the death penalty. What is your take on that, Liz? Capital punishment. It's been a long time since we executed anybody in the country, by the way.
My mind hasn't really gone to that. I haven't really given thorough thought to death penalties and the repercussions as a result. But quickly, why would we want to take somebody's life? Incarcerating the person for life is enough punishment. The person does not come out to enjoy the freedoms that the person has denied somebody else of. Because I know that most of the time you go on to death penalty when you've committed murder or something serious like that. And quickly, I mean, if you kill somebody for something the person has done, what do you gain from it? We can kind of reform the person. The person can be useful to us, even if the person does not have total freedom. So why don't we look at correcting certain things? I keep saying that anybody who abuses somebody else and is mentally unstable, I mean, if you go beyond what is expected of you normally, then there's something wrong with you. And you look at people who commit murder for all kinds of reasons, and you wonder why they do that. But as a people, shouldn't we stand and be sympathetic and rather help them? At least whoever has lost their life is gone, but the person that you want to kill, is that the right way to go? So I really haven't paid much attention to it, but I think that I'll do that from now, and maybe I'll be able to come up with something more concrete.
Right. Let's take a look at the Daily Dispatch newspaper, some of the other stories we've done already, but Bawumia has proven he can lead Ghana after Akufo-Addo. Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, says so, and that is in a recent engagement where he said, especially on the back of the analysis by the vice president concerning the economy, that he has proven himself. Shall I tempt you to wade into this one?
No.
Right. So interesting developments, especially when you look at the fact that the party itself has said that people shouldn't, sort of point to this person or that person, allow the party's machinery to declare a candidate for them. But you still see bigwigs within the party saying, oh, this and oh, that, which point in certain directions. But only time will tell when they go for their vote and Congress and the people at the grassroots determine whom it is going to be. So, right, let's take another look at the Daily Statesman. In fact, the first look, I should say. Dr. Chibodako, Bawumia's lecture on the economy gave hope. And there's also NYA to empower over 100,000 youth volunteers, that mentioned. French elections, Macron targets Le Pen as runoff campaign begins. Have you followed anything of the French elections, Liz?
No.
Okay. It's interesting because...
I try hard to stay away from politics because it kind of mars everything. I mean, the moment you're looking into politics, you're kind of like saying that if there's no politics, then nothing happens. But I think that I look more to economics than I do to politics. I rather would look at the social, economic environment before I look at the political environment, because politics is a lot of talk, and half the time when they come into office, they don't do half the things that they have said.
Let's look at a few more stories in the next minute and wrap the conversation. We made 9.8 million Ghana cedis profit before tax in 2020. Bost, of course, pictured there, Bost MD Edwin Provençal. He's come into the fray because people have spoken about his assertion or allegation that they had made some $30 million of profit, only to find out that they were actually incurring net losses, I think, since 2019. But he's come out to clarify that, of course, you can make profits from certain entities, but the other debts can come and swallow everything. 734, that's the figure. In 3 months of 2022, 734 people have been killed in road crashes in these 3 months. It represents 4.8% of a reduction over the 771 killed in 2021. But of course, it's still a big problem. Fuel prices to stabilize, that's the graphic business. BDCs assure public after Bank of Ghana intervention. Do you see that happening, Liz? Fuel prices to stabilize?
Oh, yes. In the near future, it should. I mean, the Russia-Ukraine war is kind of like dying off. We are not having as much impact from there as before. I think that we hear the Russians are regrouping in the east for a bigger onslaught. That is what. So no one can tell because diplomacy hasn't worked. So we don't know whether this will end sometime soon. Whether they'll just stick to the east or regroup and do more. I want to believe that diplomacy will work. I want to believe that they can talk this out. I want to believe that the world also has a stake. So instead of sitting back and just waiting and watching Russia and Ukraine and NATO do their thing, I think that everybody else should have a voice. And we should have a voice because we rely on each other. We are interrelated when it comes to resources. So if we want to have a stable economy, if we want to have a stable world, if we want to make sure that we are progressing and not retrogressing all the time, I think that everybody has a stake. But again, when it comes to Russia and Ukraine and NATO, and you listen to Biden, sometimes you just want to wonder exactly what they're playing at. But I want to believe that with time, everything would settle. My prayer is that we have peace all the time. But then again, as a nation, Ghana, we should also be looking elsewhere. If those are major places where we go for oil, there are other areas we can be going for oil who are not involved in the war, who are not being drawn into it. Right. The thing is that oil prices are determined by OPEC. And if OPEC has only 2 of these people out of them, what are the others doing? You know, so there should be more talk, there should be more understanding, there should be more cooperation, and then the world should go on and not feel that it should be drawn down just because of 2 nations or because NATO and other nations think that they have something to trash out. I think that there should be a lot more talk, there should be a lot more diplomacy. We should, as people, think of each other first rather than individuals, ourselves first. Okay.
Liz, we'll have to hang in here, but thank you so much for joining us for another Tuesday morning, and we do wish you the very best of the day.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored always to be called upon.
Thank you. Just a quick clarification. So I mentioned $400 million, I think, and $30 million as well when it comes to the Bost issue. They actually in cedis. But just to wrap, happy birthday to Juliana Ankuche of Vakpo Senior High School. God bless you abundantly, and I love you always. Is from Elom Ashiagbo, your husband. Juliana Ankuche of Vakpo Senior High School. Happy birthday from your husband, Elom Ashiagbo. On that note, we wrap. Up next, Sports Tuesday.